I'll never forget the morning my whole world tilted on its axis. I was 62 years old, and I thought I knew everything about my life. I thought I knew my wife. I thought I understood why my daughter barely spoke to me anymore. I was wrong about all of it. It started on a Tuesday in early March. The kind of gray Seattle morning where the rain doesn't fall so much as hang in the air, soaking through your jacket before you even realize you're wet. I was driving my daughter Megan to the airport. She was flying back to Boston after a tense 4-day visit, and the silence in my truck was so thick I could barely breathe. 23 years old, my little girl, and she looked at me like I was a stranger she'd been forced to share an elevator with. "You excited about the new position?" I tried. She was starting as a junior architect at a firm downtown. My firm had helped fund her education, though she probably didn't know that. Her mother had made sure of it. Megan shrugged, eyes fixed on her phone. "It's fine. Your mother says you've already found an apartment. Mom helped me pick it out." Of course she did. Vanessa had been helping for years now, helping Megan understand why her father worked so much, helping her see why I was never really there, even when I was sitting right next to her, helping her realize that I cared more about my construction company than my own family. None of it was true, but try telling that to a daughter who'd heard the same story for 15 years. "Megan, I want you to know," I started, gripping the steering wheel tighter. "Whatever you've been told, whatever you think happened between your mother and me, I never stopped loving you, not for 1 second." For a moment, I thought I saw something flicker in her eyes, something like doubt, or maybe hope. But then her phone buzzed, and she looked down, and whatever door had cracked open slammed shut again. "My Uber to the terminal is confirmed," she said. "You can just drop me at departures. I can walk you in. Help with your bags. I've got one carry-on, Dad. I think I can manage." Dad. Not Daddy, like she used to call me. Not even father. Just Dad, spoken like a job title for someone she barely knew. I pulled up to the departure zone and watched her unbuckle her seatbelt. She hesitated for half a second. I held my breath. "Thanks for the ride," she said. And then she was gone, disappearing into the crowd of travelers without looking back. I sat there for a long time, long enough for an airport security officer to tap on my window and tell me I needed to move along. I nodded, put the truck in drive, and headed for the freeway. That's when my phone rang. The name on the screen made me frown. Rosa Mendez, our housekeeper of 18 years. In all that time, she had never called me directly. If she needed something, she texted Vanessa or left a note on the kitchen counter. "Rosa, is everything okay?" "Mr. Harrison." Her voice was barely above a whisper. "Where are you right now?" "Leaving the airport. Just dropped Megan off." "Why? What's wrong?" "Do not come home." The words came out rushed, frightened. "Do not come home, Mr. Harrison. Go somewhere else. Anywhere else." My foot eased off the gas pedal. "Rosa, you're scaring me. What's going on?" "I was cleaning the study this morning. Your wife's study. She told me never to go in there, but I saw the door was open, and I thought." She trailed off, and I heard her take a shaky breath. "There are documents, Mr. Harrison, on her desk. I shouldn't have looked, but I saw your name, and I couldn't help it." "What kind of documents?" "Transfer papers. For the company. And there were other papers too. Medical papers. A diagnosis." The blood drained from my face. "What diagnosis?" "Dementia, Mr. Harrison. Early onset dementia. But the name on the papers, it was your name. And there was a note from a doctor, Kellerman, saying he would provide whatever documentation was needed for the competency hearing." I nearly rear-ended the car in front of me. I swerved into the right lane, ignoring the angry honk behind me, and pulled onto the shoulder. "Rosa, that's impossible. I don't have dementia. I've never even seen a Dr. Kellerman." "I know, Mr. Harrison. I know." Her voice cracked. "That's why I'm calling. There's more. Your wife. She has been meeting with a man. For months now. He comes to the house when you're at work. I didn't say anything because I wasn't sure, and I didn't want to cause trouble. But now with these papers, my hands were shaking. Vanessa and I had been married for 27 years. We'd built a life together. a company together. She'd been my bookkeeper in the early days, back when Harrison Construction was just me and two guys with a pickup truck. She knew every account, every asset, every password. Who is this man? His name is Daniel Frost. He's a lawyer. I heard them talking once. They didn't know I was there. Mrs. Harrison said something about the conservatorship being approved by summer, and then they could liquidate the assets without your interference. Conservatorship. The word hit me like a physical blow. They were trying to have me declared mentally incompetent, to take control of everything I'd spent 40 years building. Rosa, listen to me carefully. Are those documents still on her desk? Yes. I left everything exactly as I found it. Good. Don't touch anything. I need you to do something for me. Do you have a phone that can take pictures? Yes. My son gave me an iPhone last Christmas. I need you to photograph everything on that desk. Every document, every page. But be careful. Don't let Vanessa see you. She left an hour ago. Said she had a spa appointment and wouldn't be back until dinner. Perfect. Take the photos, then send them to my email. Can you do that? Yes, Mr. Harrison. I heard her moving, footsteps on hardwood. I'm going to the study now. Rosa. Wait. I pinched the bridge of my nose, trying to think. Why are you doing this? You've worked for Vanessa for almost 20 years. Why tell me? She was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was thick with emotion. When my husband died, Mr. Harrison, I had nothing. No savings, no insurance. My son was only 14, and I didn't know how we would survive. Mrs. Harrison wanted to fire me. She said we couldn't afford a housekeeper during the recession, but you kept me on. You gave me a raise when my son got into college. You paid for his textbooks when I couldn't afford them. I remembered. It had seemed like such a small thing at the time. You gave me my dignity, Mr. Harrison. You treated me like family when your own wife treated me like furniture. I can never repay that, but I can do this. I had to swallow twice before I could speak. Thank you, Rosa. I mean that. I'll send the pictures soon. Please be careful. She hung up, and I sat there on the side of the freeway, watching cars rush past, feeling like I'd just woken up in someone else's nightmare. The photos arrived 20 minutes later. 12 images that confirmed everything Rosa had told me and more. There was a psychiatric evaluation dated 3 months ago, signed by Dr. Richard Kellerman, describing symptoms I'd never experienced. Memory loss, confusion, paranoid delusions about my wife's fidelity. The document recommended immediate intervention and noted that the patient, me, was becoming increasingly volatile and potentially dangerous. I'd never met Dr. Kellerman. I'd never had a psychiatric evaluation. The whole thing was fiction, but it got worse. There were bank statements showing large transfers from our joint accounts to a holding company I'd never heard of. Legal documents for something called the Harrison Family Trust, which would give Vanessa sole control over all marital assets in the event of my incapacitation, and a handwritten note in my wife's familiar cursive that made my stomach turn. Daniel, the documents are ready. Once Harold is in Pinecrest, we can move forward with the sale. Mitchell Crane offered $12 for the company. With the house, investments, and retirement accounts, we should clear $20 by fall. Meet me at the usual place Tuesday, at 3 p.m. to celebrate. Pinecrest. I knew that name. It was a memory care facility on the outskirts of the city, a place where people went when they couldn't take care of themselves anymore. My wife was planning to have me committed to a mental institution so she could steal my company and run off with her lawyer boyfriend. 27 years of marriage. 27 years of thinking I knew this woman, and she was ready to throw me away like garbage. I wanted to drive straight home and confront her. I wanted to scream and break things and demand answers, but some cold, rational part of my brain knew that was exactly what she expected. If I came home ranting about conspiracy and betrayal, it would only support her narrative. The paranoid husband, just like the fake evaluation said. No, I needed to be smart about this. I needed evidence, real evidence, not just photographs of documents that could be dismissed as forgeries or misunderstandings. I pulled up my banking app and checked our accounts. The joint account still had money in it, but far less than there should have been. I scrolled through the transaction history and saw a pattern. Small transfers, 5,000 here, 8,000 there, all going to the same external account. The holding company Rosa had mentioned. She'd been siphoning money for months, maybe years, and I'd never noticed because I trusted her to handle our finances. I needed to protect what was left. I transferred the remaining balance, about $40,000, to my personal savings account, an account Vanessa didn't have access to. Then I got back on the freeway and started driving with no destination in mind, just movement. My phone buzzed with a text. Rosa again. Mr. Harrison, your wife just came home early. She went straight to the study. She's on the phone now, very angry. I think she knows about the money transfer. Please be careful. 5 minutes later, another text. She's making calls. I heard her say your name and something about emergency procedures. I think they're going to try something today. Please don't come back here. My mind raced. If Vanessa knew I'd discovered her plan, she'd accelerate the timeline. She had a tame psychiatrist willing to sign whatever documents she needed. She had a lawyer boyfriend who probably knew every trick in the book. What did I have? I had Rosa. And I had the truth. But the truth doesn't mean much when you're a 62-year-old man accused of losing his mind. I needed help. Real help. I pulled off at the next exit and found a coffee shop where I could think. I ordered a black coffee I didn't want and found a corner booth where I could see the door. My brother Frank lived in Portland, 3 hours south. He was a retired police detective, the kind of guy who'd spent 30 years seeing the worst of human nature. If anyone would know what to do, it was him. He answered on the second ring. Harry? Everything okay? Frank, I need your help. I told him everything. The phone call from Rosa, the documents, the fake psychiatric evaluation, the money transfers, all of it. When I finished, there was a long silence on the other end. Jesus Christ, he finally said. Vanessa? I never liked her much, but I never thought she'd do something like this. Neither did I. Okay, listen. First thing, don't go home. You're right about that. If they're trying to build a case that you're mentally unstable, the worst thing you can do is show up angry and confrontational. What do? You need to get ahead of this. Tomorrow morning, first thing, you find a psychiatrist of your own. Someone reputable, with no connection to this Kellerman guy. You get a full evaluation, documented and dated. That gives you ammunition if they try to push the competency hearing. What about Vanessa? What about the money she's stolen? One thing at a time. For tonight, you need to disappear. Don't use credit cards. Don't check into a hotel under your own name. Don't do anything that creates a paper trail. You got cash? I can get some. Good. Find somewhere quiet to lay low. I'll make some calls, see what I can dig up on this Daniel Frost character. And Harry? Yeah? Don't do anything stupid. You're not a young man anymore. Let the system work this time. I promised him I would, even though every fiber of my being wanted to drive straight to my wife's lover's house and introduce him to the business end of a crowbar. But Frank was right. I had to play this smart. I withdrew $500 from an ATM using my personal account, then drove north toward Everett. I had a buddy from the old days, a guy named Marcus who owed me a favor from when I'd helped him rebuild his shop after a fire. He had a fishing cabin on the Stillaguamish River, off the grid. No neighbors for miles. Marcus didn't ask questions when I called. He just gave me directions and told me where to find the spare key. The cabin was small but clean, with a wood stove for heat and a propane generator for the basics. I got a fire going as the sun set, then sat in the darkness with my phone, scrolling through the photos Rosa had sent, looking for anything I might have missed. That's when I noticed the email thread. One of the photos showed Vanessa's laptop screen, and Rosa had unknowingly captured an open email window. I zoomed in, squinting at the tiny text, and felt my heart stop. The email was from Daniel Frost to Vanessa, dated 2 weeks ago. The private investigator confirmed that Harold has no knowledge of our arrangement. His secretary says he's been distracted lately, working long hours on the Morrison project. This works in our favor. I've arranged for the commitment papers to be ready by March 15th. Dr. Kellerman will testify that Harold poses a danger to himself and others. With the documentation we've prepared, the judge should grant an emergency conservatorship within 48 hours. By the time Harold realizes what's happening, you'll have full control of all marital assets. March 15th. That was in 10 days. I scrolled down to see Vanessa's reply. Perfect. I've already started telling friends that Harold has been acting erratically. The groundwork is laid. After the conservatorship is approved, I want him transferred to Pinecrest immediately. The facility director owes me a favor, and he's agreed to limit Harold's communication with the outside world. By the time anyone realizes something is wrong, we'll be in Costa Rica with the money. Costa Rica. They were planning to flee the country. I read the exchange 3 more times, my hands shaking with rage and disbelief. This wasn't just a scheme to take my money. This was a plan to have me locked away, cut off from everyone I knew, while my wife and her lover disappeared with everything I'd ever worked for. And they'd been laying the groundwork for months, telling our friends I was acting strangely, building a narrative of mental decline that no one would question. I thought about all the dinner parties over the past year where Vanessa had made little comments. Oh, Harold forgot our anniversary again. Harold's been so forgetful lately. I'm worried about him. At the time, I thought she was just being passive-aggressive. Now I understood. She was poisoning the well, turning everyone we knew into unwitting witnesses for her fake case. Even Megan. God, even my own daughter. I thought about how distant Megan had been during her visit, how she'd looked at me with something like pity, how she'd mentioned that Mom was worried about me. Vanessa had been working on her too, turning my daughter against me so that when the time came, Megan would believe her mother's lies. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my wife's face, smiling at me across the breakfast table while she plotted my destruction. The next morning, I called Frank again. I found more, I said, and told him about the emails. They're planning to move on March 15th. That's 10 days away. Then we need to move faster. I heard him typing in the background. I did some digging on Daniel Frost. He's a partner at a firm downtown, specializes in estate planning and conservatorships. 3 years ago, there was a complaint filed against him by a client's family. They claimed he'd manipulated an elderly woman into signing over power of attorney while she was in the hospital. Case was settled out of court. Records sealed. So he's done this before. Looks like it. He found a new target. Your wife found a partner in crime. Match made in hell. What about Dr. Kellerman? Still working on that. But Harry, here's what I'm thinking. You've got their emails, their documents, their whole plan laid out. That's good. But it's not enough. You need to catch them in the act. Get them on record admitting what they're doing. How? You still have access to your home security system? I hadn't even thought of that. When we'd renovated the house 5 years ago, I'd insisted on a comprehensive security setup. Cameras at every entrance, motion sensors, cloud-based recording. Vanessa had rolled her eyes and called me paranoid. I pulled up the app on my phone and entered my password. For a moment, I was terrified it wouldn't work, that she'd changed the credentials. But the familiar interface appeared, showing live feeds from 6 different cameras. And there, in the living room, was my wife, sitting on the couch with a man I'd never seen before. A man in an expensive suit, with silver hair, and a smile I immediately wanted to punch. They were holding hands. Frank, I said slowly, I can see them. Right now. They're in my house. Can you hear them? I tapped the audio icon. For a moment, there was nothing but static. Then, voices came through. Tinny but clear. Said he withdrew money from the account yesterday, Vanessa was saying. 40,000. He knows something. He doesn't know anything, Daniel replied smoothly. He probably just needed cash for one of his projects. You're being paranoid. I'm being careful. There's a difference. Either way, it doesn't change our timeline. Kellerman's ready to sign off on the papers. By this time next week, Harold will be in Pinecrest, and we'll have control of everything. My wife nodded, then leaned her head against his shoulder. I've been waiting for this for so long. You have no idea. How long? Years. She laughed. and the sound was like broken glass. I've been playing the dutiful wife for years, Daniel, smiling at his boring work dinners, listening to him talk about construction projects like anyone cares, watching him pour money into that company while I got nothing but a joint credit card and an allowance. It'll all be worth it soon. Costa Rica, remember? Beach house. No extradition. All the time in the world. I couldn't listen anymore. I closed the app and sat in the darkness of the cabin, feeling something cold and hard settle in my chest. This wasn't just about money. My wife hated me. She'd hated me for years. Everything I thought I knew about my marriage was a lie. And my daughter, my sweet Megan, who I'd loved more than anything in the world. What had Vanessa told her? What poison had she dripped into my daughter's ears over all those years? I thought about Megan's coldness at the airport. The way she couldn't wait to get away from me. The way she'd looked at me like I was already gone. My wife hadn't just stolen my money. She'd stolen my daughter. Harry? You still there? Frank's voice pulled me back. Yeah, I'm here. What do you want to do? I took a deep breath and felt the cold, hard thing in my chest shift into something sharper, something that felt like resolve. I want to destroy them, I said quietly. I want to take everything they're planning to steal and turn it against them. I want them to lose everything, the way they tried to make me lose everything. That's the brother I know. All right, here's what we're going to do. Frank laid out a plan over the next hour. It was methodical, careful, exactly the kind of operation he'd run 100 times as a detective. I listened and took notes and felt something like hope for the first time since Rosa's phone call. The next few days were a blur of activity. First, I met with a psychiatrist Frank recommended. Dr. Susan Chen was thorough and professional. She ran me through 3 hours of cognitive tests, asked about my medical history, reviewed my work records. At the end, she gave me a clean bill of mental health and a signed letter stating that I showed no signs of dementia, memory impairment, or any other cognitive decline. If someone's claiming otherwise, she said, raising an eyebrow, I'd be very interested to know on what basis. Next, I hired a private attorney, not someone local who might have connections to Daniel Frost's firm, but a woman from Portland named Claire Okonkwo who specialized in financial crimes and fraud. I showed her the documents and explained the situation. This is textbook conservatorship fraud, she said, her face grim. They're trying to manufacture evidence of incapacity so they can strip you of your legal rights and steal your assets. It's more common than people think. And it's hard to prosecute because the victims often can't speak for themselves. What can we do? We build a case. We document everything. And when the time is right, we bring in the authorities. Over the next week, I gathered evidence. I recorded hours of footage from my home security system, capturing conversations between Vanessa and Daniel that made their plan crystal clear. I obtained my own medical records proving I'd never been treated for any cognitive issues. I tracked down the complaint against Daniel Frost and convinced the family who'd filed it to speak with my attorney. And I watched, night after night. I logged into the security system and watched my wife and her lover make plans to destroy my life. It was torture, but I needed to know everything. Every detail, every weakness. The day before March 15th, Frank called with news. I found something on Kellerman. The good doctor has a gambling problem. He's into some very unfriendly people for about 200 grand. My guess? Frost offered to make that debt disappear in exchange for some creative medical documentation. So he's being paid to lie, more like coerced. But the result's the same. Here's the interesting part, though. I reached out to an old contact at the medical board. Turns out they've been investigating Kellerman for months. Suspicious evaluations. Patients' families filing complaints. They were about to pull his license anyway. Our complaint might be the nail in his coffin. Everything was falling into place. But there was one more piece I needed. I called Rosa. Mr. Harrison. Her voice was warm with relief. I've been so worried. Are you safe? I'm safe. And I want you to know, Rosa, none of this would have been possible without you. You saved my life. I only did what was right. You did more than that. And I'll never forget it. I paused. I need to ask you for one more thing. Anything. Tomorrow, my wife is expecting the conservatorship papers to be approved. She thinks I'll be taken to Pinecrest before I know what's happening. I need you to be at the house when it all goes down. I need a witness. I'll be there. Rosa. There's something else. This was the part that had been gnawing at me for days. My daughter Megan. She's been told lies about me for years. I don't know if she'll ever believe the truth. But I have to try. Do you have her phone number? Rosa was quiet for a moment. She gave it to me last Christmas. In case of emergencies. I think this qualifies. She texted me the number, and I stared at it for a long time before finally calling. Megan answered on the fourth ring. Hello? Megan. It's Dad. Please don't hang up. Dad? She sounded confused. Where are you? Mom said you disappeared, that you're having some kind of breakdown. I'm sure she did. Megan, I need you to listen to me. Really listen. Can you do that? I don't know what's going on. I know you don't. And I know you've been told things about me, things that made you pull away. But I need you to know that none of it is true. I took a deep breath. Your mother and a man named Daniel Frost are planning to have me declared mentally incompetent so they can steal my company and disappear to Costa Rica. They've forged medical documents. They've been lying to everyone, including you. Silence on the other end. I could hear her breathing, trying to process what I'd just said. Dad, that's... She trailed off. Mom wouldn't do that. I have proof. Recordings, documents, everything. Megan, I wouldn't lie to you. I have never lied to you. But your mother has been lying to both of us for years. I don't believe you. Then come see for yourself. Tomorrow at noon, everything is going to come out. If I'm wrong, you can write me off forever. But if I'm right, you deserve to know the truth. Another long silence. Then, so quietly I almost missed it. Okay. March 15th arrived cold and clear. I was up before dawn, reviewing the plan one last time. At 9 a.m., Claire Okonkwo filed an emergency motion blocking the conservatorship petition. At 10 a.m., Frank and two of his former colleagues showed up at Dr. Kellerman's office, with evidence of his fraudulent evaluations. At 11 a.m., I got a text from Rosa. Your wife and the lawyer are here. They seem nervous. I smiled grimly and started driving toward Seattle. At 11:45, I pulled into my own driveway for the first time in 2 weeks. Vanessa's car was there, along with a black Mercedes I didn't recognize. And parked at the curb was another car, a silver Honda that made my heart clench. Megan was here. I walked up to my front door, took a deep breath, and stepped inside. They were all in the living room. Vanessa and Daniel on one side, both frozen mid-conversation. Rosa standing by the kitchen doorway, and Megan sitting on the edge of an armchair, looking like she wanted to be anywhere else. Vanessa recovered first. Harold, thank God you're okay. We've been so worried about you. She started toward me with her arms open, and I held up a hand to stop her. Don't, she faltered. Harold, what's wrong? You're acting strange. We should call Dr. Kellerman. Have you evaluated? Dr. Kellerman is currently being interviewed by the medical board about his history of fraudulent psychiatric evaluations. He won't be seeing any patients today. Or ever again. Daniel Frost stepped forward, his lawyer's smile firmly in place. Mr. Harrison, I don't know what you think is happening here, but I'm sure we can clear up any misunderstanding. Oh, there's no misunderstanding. I pulled out my phone and hit play on the recording I'd queued up. The voices filled the room. Vanessa's voice, Daniel's voice, discussing their plan in explicit detail. The conservatorship, the forged documents, Costa Rica, all of it. Vanessa's face went white. The police are on their way, I continued calmly, along with my attorney, who has filed fraud charges against both of you. The money you stole has been traced and frozen. Your accounts in Costa Rica have been flagged. It's over. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Daniel grabbed Vanessa's arm and started pulling her toward the back door. Don't bother, I said. There are officers waiting outside. Frank thought you might try to run. As if on cue, the front door opened, and two uniformed police officers stepped inside. I watched as they handcuffed my wife, who was crying now, mascara running down her face, saying my name over and over like it would change something. It didn't, but then another voice cut through the chaos, soft and broken and aimed right at me. "Dad." I turned to see Megan standing there, tears streaming down her face. "Dad, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. All these years, she told me you didn't care about us. She said you were going to leave us for your work." She said. She couldn't finish. I crossed the room in 3 steps and wrapped my arms around my daughter for the first time in years. "It's okay," I whispered into her hair. "It's okay, sweetheart. You didn't know. None of this was your fault." She sobbed against my chest, and I held her tighter, feeling something cracked and broken inside me start to heal. Rosa appeared at my elbow, pressing a tissue into my hand. I looked at her and saw tears in her eyes too. "Thank you," I said. "For everything." She nodded and squeezed my arm. Family looks out for family. The police led Vanessa and Daniel away. I watched them go, waiting to feel something like satisfaction or triumph. Instead, all I felt was tired and free. That was 6 months ago. Vanessa is awaiting trial on multiple counts of fraud, conspiracy, and attempted false imprisonment. Daniel Frost was disbarred and faces his own charges. Dr. Kellerman lost his medical license and flipped on both of them in exchange for a lighter sentence. Harrison Construction is still mine. The house is still mine. But more importantly, my daughter is back in my life. Megan moved back to Seattle after everything came out. She couldn't stand to be in Boston, couldn't stand the memories of all the years she'd spent believing her mother's lies. We're taking it slow, rebuilding a relationship that was almost stolen from us. Some days are harder than others, but every day, we talk. Every day, we try. Rosa still works at the house. She told me once that she thought about retiring, but she decided she wasn't ready yet. "Someone has to keep an eye on you," she said with a smile. I gave her a raise, and I set up a college fund for her grandson. Yesterday, Megan and I had dinner together, just the two of us, at a little Italian place near the waterfront. We talked about her work, about my plans to finally slow down, about nothing in particular. At the end of the meal, she reached across the table and took my hand. "Dad," she said, "I need you to know something. Those years I spent hating you, they were the worst years of my life. Not because you weren't there, but because I wanted you to be there so badly and I couldn't let myself admit it." I squeezed her hand. "I know. Mom tried to take you away from me. She almost succeeded, but she didn't. And I'm so grateful that she didn't." "Me too, sweetheart. Me too." We sat there for a long time, father and daughter, watching the boats come in as the sun set over Elliott Bay. Two people who'd almost lost each other, finding their way back. Some people will tell you that revenge is empty, that it doesn't give you what you really want. And maybe they're right. But I'll tell you what I learned from all of this. The best revenge isn't anger or violence or even justice, though justice certainly helps. The best revenge is living the life that someone tried to take from you. It's building something beautiful from the wreckage of what they tried to destroy. My wife tried to steal my future. Instead, I got my daughter back. I got my dignity back. I got to watch the people who betrayed me face the consequences of their choices. And I got to spend the rest of my life knowing that the people who matter, the ones who are truly loyal, will always find their way to your side. Sometimes kindness comes back to you when you need it most. 18 years ago, I helped a housekeeper keep her job when my wife wanted to fire her. I paid for her son's college textbooks when she couldn't afford them. I treated her like family because it was the right thing to do. And when my own family tried to destroy me, she was the one who saved my life. If you're watching this, I hope you remember that. The small kindnesses matter. The people you help along the way, they remember. And when the darkness comes, sometimes they're the only light you have. I'm 63 now. I have more years behind me than ahead of me. But for the first time in a long time, I'm looking forward to every single one of them. And I have one more thing to share. Megan called me last week with news. She's engaged. A nice young man she met at her firm. Someone who makes her laugh. who treats her well. She asked if I would walk her down the aisle. I said yes. Of course I said yes. So that's my story. A father who almost lost everything and got it back, thanks to a warning from an unexpected friend and the strength to fight for what was rightfully mine. If you're going through something similar, if someone is trying to take what's yours, trying to turn your family against you, trying to convince the world that you're something you're not, don't give up. Document everything. Find people you can trust. And remember that the truth has a way of coming out in the end. But most of all, remember this: the bonds that matter, the real ones, they can't be broken by lies. They can be bent, they can be tested, but they can't be destroyed. Family is what you make it. And sometimes the family you choose, the housekeeper who risks everything to help you, the brother who talks you through the darkness, the daughter who finally sees the truth, is stronger than the family you were born into. That's what I learned at 62 years old, sitting in a cold cabin, watching my whole life come apart at the seams. And it's what I carry with me now, every single day, as I build something new from what remains. Thanks for listening. And if you got something out of this story, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other.